Pharmacy law, ethics, and regulations. Learning objectives. Gain a thorough understanding of federal laws that govern the practice of pharmacy. Proper labeling practices. Difference between OTCs and legend drugs. Knowledge of DEA forms and their uses. Understand regulatory requirements in different pharmacy settings. Drug recalls. Discuss generic substitution. Who can prescribe? Each state will determine the requirements of a prescriber and their prescribing power. Prescribers include medical doctors, physician assistants, nurse practitioners, dentists, osteopaths, optometrists, podiatrists, veterinarians. Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906. This act prohibited the interstate transportation or sale of adulterated and misbranded food or drugs. Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938. This created the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA. All new drug applications must be filed with the FDA. Defined misbranding and adulteration. New drugs to the market. Investigational New Drug Application, IND. The first application that must be submitted to FDA. FDA has 30 days to decide if the drug is suitable for testing. Clinical trials, Phase 1, 2, and 3. New drug application, NDA process. The drug is on file at the FDA and can be marketed. Naming a new drug. The responsibility for designating a non-proprietary or generic name for a new drug belongs to the United States Adopted Names Council, USAN. Final approval for any drug name is granted by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, HHS. Abbreviated New Drug Application, ANDA. Under the Hatch-Waxman Amendment, manufacturers for generic products only need to submit ANDA, which requires bioequivalence with the brand name counterpart. Manufacturers of the brand name drug were given 5 additional years of patent protection. Adulteration versus misbranding. Adulteration, in whole or in part of any filthy, putrid, or decomposed substance, prepared, packed, or held under unsanitary conditions, containing unsafe color additives. Misbranding. Labeling false or misleading in any particular way. Packaging that does not have proper labeling. Failure to carry a label with proper indications. Manufacturer drug labeling. Name and place of business of manufacturer, packer, and distributor. National Drug Code, NDC. Adequate directions for use. No misleading statements. Statement of ingredients. Expiration date. Manufacturer lot or control numbers. Declaration of presence of FD&C yellow number 5 or number 6 in certain drugs for human use. Declaration of presence of phenylalanine as a component of aspartame in OTC and prescription drugs for human use. Labeling for systemic antibacterial drug products. Barcode label requirements. Exemptions or alternatives to labeling requirements for human drug products held by the Strategic National Stockpile. Durham-Humphrey Act of 1951. Amendment to the FDCA of 1938. Over-the-counter, non-legend drugs. No prescription required. Advertising is regulated by the Federal Trade Commission, FTC. Prescription legend drugs. Requires a prescription. Requires supervision of a physician. Allows verbal prescription orders and refills. Caution. Federal law prohibits dispensing without a prescription. Over-the-counter package labeling. Drugs name and place of business of manufacturer, packer, or distributor of drugs and devices. NDC number. Active ingredient. Established name of drug. Inactive ingredient. Content requirements. Purposes, uses, directions. Questions. National Drug Code. The number assigned by the manufacturer. Each NDC number has 3 parts or sets of numbers. The first set indicates the manufacturer. The next set indicates the medication, its strength, dosage form. The last set indicates the package size. Prescription drug labels. The minimum requirements. Name and address of dispenser. Prescription serial number. Prescription fill date. Name of prescriber. Name of patient. Directions for use. Cautionary statements. Unit dose packaging and labeling. Generic name and trade name if appropriate. Quantity of active drug or drugs present. Name of the manufacturer, packer, or distributor. the repackager's lot number, the expiration date, any other appropriate information concerning the specific drug, for example, special storage requirements. Off-label or unlisted, when prescribers find a new therapeutic indication for a drug that is not included in the drug's product insert. Kefauver-Harris Amendment of 1962. All medications must be pure, safe, and effective. Mandated Good Manufacturing Process, GMP. Define the conditions under which drugs can be manufactured in the U.S. Established procedures for both drug applications and investigational drugs. The FDA has the authority for regulating prescription drug advertising. Comprehensive Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Act of 1970. This created the Drug Enforcement Agency, DEA, created controlled substances and the 5 schedules, or classes, based on potential for abuse and accepted medical use in the United States. The lower the number, the higher the potential for abuse. Schedule 1 drugs have no accepted medical use: crack cocaine, ecstasy, rohypnol. Examples of controlled substances: Schedule 2, OxyContin, morphine, Percocet, Norco. Schedule 3, Tylenol No. 3, phendimetrazine, anabolic steroids. Schedule 4, Ambien, Xanax, phenobarbital. Schedule 5, promethazine with codeine. DEA requirements. Any facility that dispenses controlled substances must be registered. DEA records must be maintained for at least 2 years and must be readily retrievable, means separated from normal business records or easily identifiable. A red C must be stamped on Schedule 3 to 5 prescriptions if filled with other invoices. Mandatory initial inventory must be completed before opening of the first day of business for pharmacy. Mandatory biennial inventory, exact count on C2s, and estimated count for C3 to C5. Records kept for 2 years. DEA forms. DEA Form 224 is the form submitted when the pharmacy is registering with the DEA. DEA Form 222 is for ordering, transferring, returning C2 drugs. DEA Form 41 is for the destruction of C2 drugs. DEA Form 106 is for the report theft of C2 drugs. DEA Form 224. DEA Form 222. Valid for 60 days. Must be completed with a typewriter, pen, or indelible pencil. 1 item per line and max of 10 items per form. Must be signed and dated by pharmacist. Maintained for a minimum of 2 years in secure location. 3 copies of DEA 222. Copy 1 brown goes to supplier. Copy 2 green to the DEA. Copy 3 blue retained by purchaser. DEA Form 41 Destruction must be submitted to the DEA, including the name, strength, quantities of controlled substances, the date of destruction, the method of destruction, witness present for the destruction. Retail pharmacy may submit 1 form each year. Hospitals may have a blanket authorization. DEA Form 106 Theft. The pharmacy must notify the nearest DEA diversion office. Notify the police and complete this form. Send the original copy off to the DEA. Retain 1 copy for pharmacy records. Schedules 3 to 5 may be ordered by any method, written, verbal, or fax. The invoice of packing slip must be dated, signed, stamped with a red C, and retained in secure location in the pharmacy for a minimum of 2 years. Prescriber's DEA number. A prescriber must have a DEA number in order to prescribe controlled substances. The first letter is an A, B, F, or M. The second letter is the first letter of the prescriber's last name. 7 numbers. Hospital employees DEA. Example, AB 1234567-012. The first numbers are the hospital's prescriber's code. Prescribers for drug abuse treatment facilities DEA number must start with letter X. Example, XB 1985312. Verifying DEA number. Add the first, third, and fifth numbers. Add the second, fourth, and sixth, then multiply them by 2. Add both sums and the end number should be equal to the 7th number in the DEA number. Filing of Controlled 2 substances. All Schedule 2 prescriptions must be signed in ink, no refills. A partial fill is allowed if the remaining quantity is available within 72 hours. Pharmacy should notify the physician if balance cannot be provided. A new prescription must be written after 72 hours if not completed. Emergency filing of Schedule II substances. Limited to a quantity to treat the patient during the emergency period, pharmacist must reduce to writing. Physician must write a prescription for this emergency quantity, and the pharmacy must receive it within 7 days of the original order. If not, the DEA must be notified immediately. Filing Schedule III to V drugs may be handwritten or computer-generated and must be signed by the physician in ink. May e-fax, telephone in, or fax, may vary from state to state. Federal laws may have up to 5 refills within 6 months. The prescription is only valid for 6 months. Facsimile prescriptions. Faxed prescriptions may serve as an original for Schedule III to V. Schedule II prescriptions to be compounded for direct administration to a patient by parenteral IV, IM, SC, intraspinal infusion. Schedule II for a resident of a long-term care facility and hospice care as certified by Medicare under Title 18 or licensed by the state. Transferring prescriptions. DEA allows one transfer for Schedule III, IV, and V prescriptions. Void must be written on invalid prescriptions. Transfer can only occur between pharmacists or pharmacy interns. All transfers must have original date written, prescription order, date of first dispense, original refills, remaining refills, transferring pharmacy's information including DEA number, name of pharmacist. Poison Prevention Packaging Act of 1970, PPPA, enacted to reduce accidental poisoning in children. Most OTCs and legend drugs must be packaged in child-resistant containers. Consumer Product Safety Commission has jurisdiction over PPPA. A child-resistant container is one that cannot be opened by 80% of children younger than 5, but can be opened by 90% of adults. Exceptions for child-resistant containers. Single-time dispensing. Dispensing of product in non-compliant container as requested by patient or customer in a signed statement. Important acts from 1972 to 1983. Drug Listing Act of 1972. Each drug is assigned a specific 11-digit number to identify. Federal Privacy Act of 1974. Regulates what personal information the federal government can collect about private individuals and how that information can be used. Medical Device Amendment of 1976. Classified medical devices according to function, performance standards, pre-market approval requirements, and GMP standards. Orphan Drug Act of 1983. These are medications for conditions which there are fewer than 200,000 cases in the world. This provides tax incentives and exclusive licensing for manufacturers to develop and market orphan drugs. Prescription Drug Marketing Act of 1987. Wholesalers must be licensed by states under federal guidelines. Banned reimportation of prescription drugs produced in U.S. Banned selling, trading, or purchasing drug samples. Storage, handling, and record-keeping for drug samples. Prevents resale of prescription drugs purchased by hospitals or healthcare facilities. FDA Modernization Act of 1997. Fast-track review of some new drug application NDA submissions for serious and life-threatening conditions. Caution: federal law prohibits dispensing without a prescription is replaced by prescription only. It eliminated certain substances to be labeled warning, may be habit-forming. Affordable Care Act, ACA of 2010. The purpose was to expand access to health insurance to all Americans, reduce costs, and protect patients against arbitrary actions by insurance companies. Medicare and Medicaid insurance. Medicare, federally funded, age-based, also given to people considered disabled. Medicaid, state-funded, income-based. Medicare Prescription Drug Improvement and Modernization Act of 2003, MMA. Medicare Part A. Hospitalization. Medicare Part B. Physician services. Diabetic supplies, transplant or select specialty medications and equipment. Medicare Part C. Managed care, Medicare Advantage. Medicare Part D. Medication. Medicare Enrollment, the first day of the 3rd month before eligibility begins and lasts for 7 months. 3 months before and 4 months after the month of their birthday. After enrollment, clients are locked in until the next general enrollment period. Enrollment is once a year. Failure to enroll may result in a late enrollment penalty. Drug recalls. Class 1. The drug may cause serious adverse health consequences, including death. Class 2. The drug product may cause temporary or reversible effects. Class 3. The drug product is unlikely to cause any adverse health consequences. Non-sterile versus sterile compounding standards. Compounding pharmacy standards. United States Pharmacopeia, USP 795. Guidance on applying good compounding practices is no sterile compounding. United States Pharmacopeia, USP 797. Contains procedural training and quality assurance requirements for sterile compounding. Compounding pharmacy standards continue. United States Pharmacopeia, USP 800, describes the practice and quality standards for handling hazardous drugs in healthcare settings and help promote patient safety, worker safety, and environmental protection. USP 800 focuses on protection of workers and environments against hazardous drug compounds, while USP 797 only focuses on sterile compounding activities. Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA. This act is to ensure the security and privacy of patients' medical records must be maintained for 6 years. Concepts to remember: federal laws, federal drug regulations, controlled substance laws, DEA forms, DEA number, new drug approvals, clinical trials, drug marketing, drug labeling, drug recalls.